So, what is that one skill each and every Indian, I'm not just talking about a student here, but each and every Indian needs to learn about AI?
Communication.
So, I also wanted to understand what role does empathy, cultural understanding, or ethics play in the future of work?
Well, in the future of work, if you are trying to make money, then very
Hmm.
little. But
Very little. Are we not going to address the ethical aspect of AI? No.
if you're looking at ethics, innovation is going to happen only slowly.
Um, Whenever it comes to AI, Adarsh, and whatever job postings that I've seen on LinkedIn or other job portals, I've always seen that they require someone with a technical background.
Yeah.
What sort of future do we see for people who come from a non-technical background?
No, it is promising.
Adarsh, you spoke about how students are not just nowadays, now not just learning from their faculties, but they have a lot of access to information through the internet, right? So is there like a possible threat or a risk that AI can also replace teachers in schools and colleges?
I would say yes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to TEDucate, your go to podcast for exploring higher education like a pro. I'm your host, Anvesha, and this week we have someone with us who works at the intersection of AI, human behavior, and societal change. With a background in anthropology, neuroscience, and education, he helps students, professionals, and organizations navigate the future of work, technology, and personal growth in a fast changing world. Let's welcome Mr. Adarsh S. Lathika, who's a AI strategist, behavioral consultant, and workforce transformation specialist. Hi, Adarsh. Thank you so much for accepting my request and welcome to my podcast.
Happy to be there, Anvisha, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes, like we were discussing, Adarsh, AI is the new buzzword and it's AI everywhere. So now that I have one AI expert in the room, so we are going to discuss a lot about AI in this episode. But before we get on to that, I want to know a little bit about your childhood.
Okay.
So my first question is, like, were there any early childhood experiences that made you think about education differently or learning differently?
Not really. I don't think I thought as deeply uh, growing up.
Mhm.
It was mostly like going with the flow for most part. But there are a couple of things that I did notice, and it's always easier to retrospect in time and then assert a reason to it. But there were the two things that I noticed was one, uh, uh, yes, everybody talks about focus on rote learning for most of the school systems that we have.
Mhm.
But I also felt that we were being taught a lot too many things. Like when I was fifth standard, I had like 12 subjects to prepare for. The
Right.
question is that when there are so many subjects, how do you find time to actually take a pause and reflect on what you have read? So there is always the emphasis will be probably to cover more chapters, book after book, subject after subject,
Mhm.
and not so much on reflection and understanding. So I think that's something that I observed then. Second thing that I observed was that I realized rather was that there are certain subjects that I enjoyed learning, irrespective of whether I was good at it or bad at it. And there were
Mhm.
a lot of subjects that I was never good at it, regardless of how much how much hard I tried at it. And like for example, science was something that I felt more comfortable relatively to language subjects.
Mhm.
And the irony is that I have won competitions in, say, essay writing or story writing growing up in the schools.
Okay.
But I never performed well for the examination in English or any of the literature topics. So, I mean, for me, my approach has always been the same, but I never really made much of a scores in the exams.
Okay.
So these two things I did notice, and as we moved from say 5 to 8 to 10 to 12th,
Mm-hmm.
the number of subjects came down, and they were more aligned to my strong area. So naturally, there was some positive impact on my performance if you had to look at the scores. Yeah.
Right. Were there any like favorite subjects and subjects you hated?
I always enjoyed doing math.
Okay.
I've always found a bit of comfort writing math exam papers.
Okay.
Computer science was another one I enjoyed. I mean, there was always the mystic about computers growing up in 90s, right? So
Mhm.
any opportunity to learn, normally you don't let go of that.
Okay.
Uh, History and geography, mostly history was something that I didn't really enjoy much because I mean, people talk about math. I mean, why do you learn math? How are you going to apply that in future? And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I had that question for history. Like, what do I do with all the years, the kingdom, the regime after regime from different parts? How are they going to contribute? But yeah, little did I know how things would
Yes, we'll
go.
get to that.
So right now, it's something that I mean, what I read now is mostly history. What I listen to in podcast is mostly history. So
Mm.
yes, I think if history is one topic you could look at relooking the approach that we have in school. How do you make it more relevant and from a pedagogy point of view? And literature is something that no matter how much I enjoyed reading it, I could never really show that in the performance. So
So I've seen mostly, Adarsh, that maths has not been like a favorite subject for most of the people or most of the students. Um, like, is maths really required? Or maybe computer science is also required when you're planning a career which is into technology, like we're talking about AI. So, like, someone has to be really good with maths and computer science if they're
yes
planning.
and no. For me, why I enjoy math is that because most of the time I see life in black and white.
Mm.
There's very little gray in how I think. And math aligns perfectly in that because there's only one right answer. There
Yeah.
is subjectivity there. So it makes me much more comfortable and easy to myself there.
Hmm.
Uh, yes and no, math is required. First, let's look at uh, importance of math in areas outside of a profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even as simple as managing your finances at home, whatever budget that you have, or understanding or evaluating which loan is appropriate for you. Yes, there are a lot of applications right now available which properly does that for you.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's always better, I mean, at least from my perspective, the way I see it, that if you are a little more involved in taking a decision which is as important as deciding to be a debtor for a bank for say 50 lakh or 1 crore, it's a huge decision. You have some say in it where which you really understand what actually is best for you. So there are elements therefore which are important in that way. And second, from a professional point of view, understanding math, do you really need to do it say for coding or even coding per se? Answer is not really. uh, So the new no-code tools which are available, whether you use a Cursor or a Bolt or JetSparks or any of them,
Mhm.
what that can do is that they can help a person with no prior coding experience create a minimum viable product.
Okay.
They can actually code something which uh, looks like what they had in their mind,
Mm.
looks like.
Mm.
But to really create something that can scale and fits in the need of somebody else, assuming you are not building it for yourself.
Yeah.
There some understanding of prior software coding or how different disparate systems within softwares talk to each other.
Mm.
How do you troubleshoot when issues happen? So that experience really helps.
Right. So we were.
And math, yes, I mean, if you understand math, I'm not saying the deep math kind of stuff that goes into your building a LLM or foundational models, but basic things like a differential calculus or even matrix calculation. You can actually do a lot of things faster.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we were talking about life being in the black and white mode
Yeah,
for you, Adarsh. But let's also explore the gray area,
yeah.
which I guess gets explored more through creativity. So, were there any moments in your childhood that actually sparked the passion in you for creativity, or maybe generate interest for the career that you are into today?
So, growing up in the 90s, the path to success was very clear. You become an engineer or a doctor. So, anything and everything that the parents or the family or the school or the extended society does is leading you towards this path. If
Mm.
this either one of them doesn't really work for you, then you look at other options. So,
Right.
nobody really asks what is that you want to do in your life. Very few people, maybe now increase more, but not definitely not in the 90s. And I'm pretty sure that if you look at the width and breadth of India, and that story is true for and different levels in different parts of the country.
Right. Yeah.
For us, I mean, in Kerala, it was you get into a good engineering college or a medical college, become an engineer or a doctor. And by the time I was finishing schooling, when the IT boom had started. So then the dream law job or the pathway was get into IT job, uh, get on site, and life is set. So that's where that was the path which has led foremost.
True.
So from being a creative, I think it was limited. Uh, But yes, I did enjoy drawing, though I wasn't really very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the few reels that I enjoy now is where in which people show using crayons to do amazing
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
Reels. That is something that once
Mm-hmm.
in a while I sit and watch. So that's the extent to which that creativity happened growing up. But largely, now what the AI revolution has done is that whatever is happening in my mind, I can now articulate and visualize it and see it being
Yeah.
built right in front of me.
Right.
That
True.
is something that the last 18 months of AI revolution, the way we define right now, has allowed me to, one. So I started building as simple things as I don't know, maybe you would have played the snake game in Nokia phones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
So
also
I
played.
think, yeah, that something that I built first. I also then built the Minesweeper game. It's
Okay.
a popular Windows
Yeah.
default game. So I
Okay.
started building those things and then moved on to the next things which are more important at work, either at a professional level or at personal level. So that's the journey started. So now the creativity has no bound as long as you're able to communicate it clearly to the AI, you can get closer. Yes, but yes, you need that last finesse to be brought in by the human, but it works still. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So you're talking about schools here, Adarsh. Would you like to talk about that one thing that schools need to incorporate in their, curriculum in order to prepare students for the future, like a AI-driven future?
AI-driven future, I think, will be unfortunate. Uh,
Hmm.
I would still like humans to have more say in what happens in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Uh, so I think it's very important. Before I answer it, I'll set a context to my answer.
True. Okay.
Uh, the way we are educated right now is an extension of what has been happening for the last 70 years from an Indian context, where in which we got independence and there was massive unemployment. The question is, how do you make those people employable? You need to get impart them education because being an educated or seventh or eighth standard, somewhere in eighth standard pass in the 60s meant a lot. That
Mm-hmm.
means that you're likely to get a government job, right?
Yeah.
And for a majority of 60s, 70s, 80s, the school system, and once that model was understood, okay, this is where things should work, that was kind of commoditized and productized and scaled in through 60s, 70s, and 80s
Mm.
and 90s to some extent, where in which the curriculum, they need to be taught these 15 things. So they are taught across fifth standard to 10th standard, and then they pass, and then they sit for the college after that. And it was also important to understand that during this time, access to information was only to teachers.
Right.
Want to build any skill or knowledge, you only had one source. Of course, there were libraries, but that was population going to libraries were always rare, even more so now. But therefore, it was the school education or what happens in the 8 hours you spent during the day inside the class mattered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today in 2025, access to information is not limited to faculty. You are learning that even a 3-year-old I've seen walking around with a mobile and a smartphone. They have so much access to knowledge. Now the question is that therefore school needs to ask what is that they are supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way education is structured, not only in India, but globally, it is a very regulated space. So that's a policy statement that government needs to do, decide. What is the, how do they envisage a generation entering the workforce, say, in another 20 years? And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, what are the 10 things or 15 things that as a nation we all need to work, come together to change at the school level and as they move up at the higher education space as well? So
Right.
based on that is what the schools can change. Otherwise, there is very limit. To my understanding, there is only to some extent that they can actually operate autonomously
Mm-hmm.
uh, to implement or embrace AI the way they think. But I do feel that there are things that they can still do it on their own. Like if you have to look at what is likely to happen in the next 15 years or 20 years, whether we like it or not, AI is going to be all pervasive. Most of us are going to use in day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we should understand what is the implication of that in us as a population. There are already studies coming out saying that too much of using of AI is impeding your critical thinking skills. So our ability to think for ourselves is going down because we're outsourcing all the thought to the AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that something that as a country of 1.4 billion want for our next generation or 20 years?
Yeah.
If that is not the case, then what are the things that we should be doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, Australia has passed a law saying that children below the age of 16 cannot have a social media account.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are very clear. They understand the implication of too much of social media, how it's going to affect the well-being of the person, as well as the other faculties being an individual, how it's going to impede, and therefore they are not allowing it. Saudi Arabia has said that no student below the age of 13 can have unsupervised access to generate AI for learning purpose. So they are all there are parts of the world where which people are recognizing how it can be used, best used. Nobody's saying do not use it, but it needs to be put some guardrail needs to be put around the usage, how it is implemented, and therefore you don't lose out on the advantages of embracing AI, but you still retain the advantages of human capital. So that call as a country we need to start thinking and implement very importantly. Second thing that schools can do, and they don't need it. I don't think they need much of a regulation for it. Is to understand and educate the students because that age is the most impressionable age, and at this point of time, those students that age group is getting influenced by what they see right now on screens or what the influencers say. So if they are seeing more and more people drinking colas, you will find the children drinking more and more of colas.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the long-term effect of the junk food or the fast food on our human body is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we are already the diabetic capital of the world. The
Mm-hmm.
number of cancer patients are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a value in being a $5 trillion economy in when we are in 2047, but with 60% of population around the number being diabetic? Answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So then how do we educate? So that part, that learning, that realization of how do you develop not only intellectually, but
Mhm.
as a healthy human being. That I think needs to happen at the school level because that's where your future is getting shaped. No, it's not, it's very rarely at home. It's where in which you are spending 90% of the waking hours in with the teachers, with your peers, is where in which your future is getting
Yeah,
shaped.
yeah, yeah.
So if the schools can take a proactive initiative there, where in which you help them understand why it is not, or at least reduce the consumption. I
Mhm.
don't think it is possible to eliminate it completely, but help them understand why, and therefore create an environment where in which healthy consumption of food uh,
Yeah.
is practiced. So I think those things is something that schools can do from their side on their own. From a AI perspective, there are still areas where in which they can do. Like for example, can you look at identifying the administrative tasks so that the teacher can focus on what he is supposed to do, which is teaching?
Mhm.
Can they create a library of AI content, which can be then repurposed for students based on their personal preference, personal learning style? So
Yeah,
those things can still be done.
true, true.
But I still feel that there should not be a strong overlay of AI into the actual pedagogy because I am not 100% sure. One, is that how humans learn?
Mm-hmm.
Second, what could be the effectiveness of long-term effectiveness of such learning?
Right.
To explain, children learn by mimicking their surroundings. They act the way the parents act when they're growing up, and then they start picking up from the environment. If they see the father eating some food and then throwing it off, it's likely that the child will also pick the
Yeah.
food up,
Yeah.
right? So you learn by mimicking the surroundings and you start picking up the things. But when you are, and you actually use all your five senses, your speaking, your hearing, your vision, your touch and smell for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the learning gets boxed into a 4 by 4 screen, you are
Mm-hmm.
only doing two senses there. You are listening, you are seeing. The contextualized, the entire context of learning comes when you are engaging the entire all the five senses. So you're actually missing out on learning it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so. I'm not a big fan of AI getting into that, but I think the entire enabling space, if you can use it, I think you can actually use AI for good to reach more and more students and help them learn the way that they should probably be learning.
Right. Adarsh, you spoke about how students are not just nowadays, now not just learning from their faculties, but they have a lot of access to information through the internet, right? So is there like a possible threat or a risk that AI can also replace teachers in schools and colleges?
I would say yes.
Hmm.
So see, it's a question of demand and supply.
Yeah, yeah,
Today, not only India, major countries are in shortage of good teachers, good qualified teachers.
yeah, yeah, true.
So there will always be an interest from the society to see whether can we scale the access to teachers through AI.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is one. Second part is that uh, once people realize that for lack of better word, you can create an avatar of your favorite teacher for whatever purpose,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Then can that avatar teach generation of students going forward?
Hmm.
Because ultimately, everybody looks at what is in for me, right? What do I get from spending 2 hours learning for one particular individual? And if you are able to evolve the technology to that extent, where in which you are able to mimic to maximum possible limits, then probably people might opt for it because then I'm sure the cost of all doing all these things would have come down dramatically.
Hmm. Hmm.
We might actually go ahead and do it, and we see that to some extent also, even with the online revolution happening in education. we
Mm.
do have access to faculty from Wharton or Stanford or Oxford
Yeah.
or IITs or IIMs. For anybody from anywhere in the world, whether you look at YouTube or SWAM portal, you get access to all the faculty there. So in a way, they are actually not creating positions for somebody else to join the workforce. So
Mm.
it's a natural progression. But on the flip side, who are really good will continue to thrive as well.
Right. Okay.
It's like opting for a tuition teacher. When you are preparing for your entrance, do you go to any tuition teacher? No, you go to the particular tuition teacher because you know that he teaches math the best, and people who, more importantly, people who took his classes scored the maximum in the entrance exam, right? That's the outcome that you're looking at. So otherwise, all teachers see the same stuff, same set of question papers, same set of pedagogic style. But then there is some magic in the way they do the class, how they engage with students, how they connect with the that individual learner, where which you tend to do better than most others do. So I think those kind of faculty will still do better. They will be in high demand. But
Okay.
yeah, I think there's a good chance that others can be replaced.
Right.
Not only faculty, I mean, I think any profession for much, maybe, in my opinion, maybe dentistry, nursing may get away with it, but others, almost everybody else, maybe in the next 15, 20, 30 years, will find working with the robot or AI avatar.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So we're talking about teachers, Adarsh. What about degrees? Can AI also replace degrees? Like, is it the time that students need to focus more on self-learning, internships, portfolios, all of that, rather than degrees?
The next 5 years, I don't think so.
As in, this degrees will still be
Degrees will be
significant.
important.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Next 10 years, I don't think so. And it has nothing to do with the learning outcome.
Okay.
Uh, It's largely to do with two things. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that degree important? The degree is important, or a bachelor's degree
Mm-hmm.
important. It is important to ensure that you will get a job, right? Even if now this question of degree versus skill has been spoken for last 10 years at least. But
Yeah.
I'm yet
Yeah.
to find a job posting
Mm-hmm.
in India, or especially in India, which says that graduate degree is not required. And
Mm-hmm.
what the posting have come up to is that any graduate degree is good. They don't say that okay, it needs to be a BTech or a BE or a BCA or
Mm-hmm.
BSc. They just say that any graduate degree is fine,
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Huh?
and that is not going to go away in at least the next 5 years. The moment the government job posting removes the requirement, is
Mm-hmm.
when the change will start happening.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
So that change needs to start from the government level jobs so that the private players can mimic it.
Hmm.
Now, are there jobs where which people are getting hired even while they are doing their undergraduate program? Answer is yes. You see that in startups happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the second part to look at is that if you are somebody who is looking to, say, immigrate outside India,
I was going to ask you
yeah.
this. Yeah.
So naturally, uh, nobody wants. So the at this today the criteria is that if you are like a 12th pass, you get X points. If you are a
Mhm.
graduate degree holder, Y points, and within the degree also type depending on whether you're a professional degree or a liberal arts degree, you have different points. So
Yeah.
unless all these countries do away with all the requirement to help you immigrate to that country, a degree
Mhm.
is still be required. And a lot of our youth do aspire to relocate. So will
Yeah.
they let go of it? Answer is no.
Okay. Okay. Um, do you also see a gap between the academic learning, because now we have shifted to higher education, we've shifted to college. So do you th see a gap between the academic learning and the real world job demands in colleges?
Yes and no.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes and no. So I think the NEP 2020, which came out, is quite progressive in that way to make the academia more agile to catch up with what's happening in the market. Because if you're looking at engineering as the use case,
Mm-hmm.
By the time you graduate, it's like after 4 years, right?
Hmm.
Look at the extent of change that has happened in the last 18 months just on AI.
Hmm.
So if you
Right.
are saying that I'm going to teach you Bolt for a student entering the workforce, entering the degree program 2025, by
Hmm.
the time he or she graduates in 2029, Bolt may be there, may not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't know. So, so the NEP does permit a lot of agility, but where the challenge comes up is that the ability to be agile is pegged on to your ranking in the NIRF ranking. So
Okay.
if you are in a top performing institute, you get more flexibility, and
Hmm.
that level drops as you go down the ranking.
Okay. Okay.
And assume that you are an engineering college, there are like 2,000 students. So 2,000 students, 50 colleges, 2005, 1 lakh students are going to learn in an agile framework. But we have more than maybe a million people learning engineering.
Yeah.
The change is not systemic. It's only limited to few top performing colleges, which includes all the IITs and NIITs already.
Yeah.
So the best of the lot are already going to those colleges. So they are going to get more advantage because of that.
Yeah.
So what we can probably look at, and there are examples of doing this more correctly.
Hmm.
Uh, One activity does happen at the placement level when the placement season kicks in, when you get trained in communication and whatever latest is happening. But that is get limited to only that final year or pre-final year students.
Yeah.
There are interventions where in which companies such as TCS, they have BTech programs in association with them in few colleges, where
Hmm.
in which what they do at work is more, or what the technology they use at work is what gets taught in the classroom. So there is a bit more fungibility and agility there.
Okay. Okay.
But what I think from a systemic impact, if you are look at scale, I think what could be more important could be bringing a bit more of professionalism in academia. Now, in all the case,
I couldn't
bringing
hear
a
you.
bit more of professionalism in
Okay.
academia.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
While because the way academia is structured, most of the placement directors or innovation center director, college are faculty.
Hmm.
So, and there is a space in which the academia works. So you make so you want to sign MOU or you want to sign an agreement for whatever it is.
Hmm.
It might be a three-page document,
Hmm.
but it can take up to like 6 months or maybe a year, few years to get it signed
Yeah.
because it needs to go through that approval hierarchy to do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we need to make corrections at that level, where in which a bit more agility is brought in that area, where in
Okay.
which the bureaucracy is limited there. They are given a bit more of freedom to be more agile, so that they can. Because look at the industry perspective. I
Hmm.
am ready to invest say 1 crore to set up a research center in a university,
Hmm.
but if it's going to take say 2 years to get approved or signed by them,
Hmm.
I'm not going to wait for 2 years, right? With 1 crore in my hand, I'm going to repurpose it for something else.
Sure. Sure.
So I think if we can bring in a mind shift change there,
Hmm.
where in which the mindset of the academy or the people running the college
Yeah.
are slightly more agile, I think that can be really help.
Right. Right. We were talking about NITs and IITs having those advantage. Talking about advantage, I remember in one of your recent panel discussion, you emphasized the importance of public infrastructure for AI. So not just like private
Yeah.
models. So how does that look in the Indian education system, especially for government schools or rural education?
So I will answer it differently.
Mm-hmm.
What has happened in the last 10 years is that we are now become a 3 trillion economy or
Yeah.
a 4 trillion economy, right?
Yes. Yes.
But what is also important is that the gap between the rich and the poor have actually increased.
Yeah.
So it's actually the 1% or 2% of the population who is getting all the money, and the rest are still the long extended tail. So when we're looking at now as a country, we are not just responsible for making the 2% live a good life. We are actually responsible for the 98% also, right? So how do you do that? Now, for that, public infrastructure becomes very important.
Hmm.
When you look at road transport or rail or anything, similarly, the AI also becomes very important to have that kind of indigenous and sovereign infrastructure that we as a country control, and we have country complete control over it. And it's mostly because of geopolitical reasons. We have already seen that when the Russia-Ukraine war happened, US asked all its companies to stop working in Russia.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So all the services were stopped immediately. Now imagine situation uh, where in which all our foundational models, so all our AI products are built on foundational models which are owned by overseas countries.
Yes.
And if they decided to switch something off, then what do we do? And
Yeah.
assume that we are building a public infrastructure on layered over one of those overseas foundational models. And if
Yeah.
they decided to turn it off, then how will the students learn?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is one. Second thing is that we already seen, I think, the Cambridge Analytica incident, where in which you are seen influencing the major decision making in the country. And considering that as a country, we are data poor.
Hmm.
So we don't have as much data as a country in the digital format. Which cut across all sections from a region perspective to society, the way in which our society is distributed. We don't have that representative data in digital form. And all the AI models, whether you are building in India or outside India, get trained on data. And
Yeah.
right now they're using data what's available, which is mostly from the outside India, right? So
Mhm.
if you have to really create a society which contributes to the well-being of your country by understanding its natural ethos, then you need something very indigenous, indigenously built from scratch, from end to end. Because we cannot have the content coming from somebody else. They may have their own reasons why they build this content. Like if you are telling the story of partition to a student in India, to a student in Pakistan, or a student in England, they will all have different perception of it because they are taught in three different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
British students are thinking that okay, they did a very good job for Indians or people in the subcontinent, but
Mm.
that's the mindset they are brought up, and there are political reasons for why that is done, and
Yeah.
that is not the sentiment that somebody from India or Pakistan will share, right?
Wow.
So we have already seen that in the last 30 years. So and AI will only make it much more
Difficult. Worse.
difficult, and because people won't even realize, right?
Yeah.
You see so
Yeah.
much of scams and false images spreading out, and so real that you don't really differentiate whether it's actually. Nobody asks whether is this even possible to for this incident to happen. You just see it on print or in digital form, you believe it, right? That's a natural inclination to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you don't question it.
Yeah. Like the WhatsApp school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the having everything within the country will give us that strategical control over what get disseminated to the larger population,
Mm-hmm.
and we will probably will be able to mold the society where which is the larger benefit of the country. So it's very
Right.
important to have it indigenous. And since most of the people use public resources, it makes sense to have a public infrastructure, not only from a national building perspective, I think even from a cost perspective also, because essentially the content is the same, whether you look at what state syllabus or ICC, I mean ICC or CBSE might be slightly different, but across the state schools, the content is more of the same. Anyway, only the pedagogy can change a bit here and there, whether you look at Kerala or you look at the school from Delhi, right?
Mm.
So having that public infrastructure, you can all of them can access the same database and then look at reinterpreting it for their students based on their context. So the essence can still be the same. So you get that cost advantage also.
Okay, so you've recently launched this AI Promise Product Kit,
Yeah.
right, Adarsh? Would you
Yes.
like to talk a bit about this initiative? Is the first part of the
Yeah.
question. And the second part is, do you feel the Indian youth or the students, they actually trust AI, or is like a, gap between access and understanding?
Okay, the first part is easier.
Yeah.
So, uh, I'm sure you know Mr. Nandan Nilekani.
Yes.
He has a firm called Step.
Okay.
Step has a foundation called People Plus AI, where in
Mm.
which they look at projects which are related to AI.
Okay.
So you can volunteer as a professional, you can look to volunteer for any of the projects which are already listed, or if you have an idea yourself, then
Mm.
you can pitch to them and get funding to solve that problem. So that's the way People Plus AI work.
Okay.
So AI Promise project was already in place when I joined as a volunteer,
Mm.
and our purpose was that create a set of statements that organizations in India can adopt and declare to consumers on how they are using AI for delivering that product or that service.
Okay. Okay.
So our questions are to establish
Mm-hmm.
that as an organization, I'm a responsible AI user.
Okay.
Okay, so now, so what we did was we studied close to, I mean, then around 12 such policy statements from outside India, where there were some statements already in place. We studied the EU Act, US, Australia, Germany, France. By the time NASCOM also had come up with some statements that developers can use as a guideline. So we studied all those things and came up with 22 statements
Mm-hmm.
that organizations can put up. It's more like a vision mission statement. You can have one more set called my statement. Not all of them are mandatory. You can opt to choose whatever works for you. The idea is not to inhibit business innovation, but to make it a bit more trustworthy to the consumer who is using it. Like we have issues where in which we give our phone number to one company, suddenly some other five other companies start calling us, right? So that's a genuine concern as a consumer that I will have. So question is, how do you ensure that with AI even being even more powerful as a technology, how do you ensure that you are the company who's providing you the service is doing it responsibly? That's the objective.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
So as a company, so most companies, if they are someone who is embarking or considering that as a requirement,
Mm-hmm.
they can probably start with our product kit and then repurpose it for their internal, however apt it is for their consumption.
Okay. Okay. And the second part, do you think the Indian youth, they or the students, do they trust AI, or is it just accessibility?
So read the terms and conditions in web pages, right?
No,
Nobody.
no,
So I
no.
think the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. that that answers a lot. Yes, true.
Because
But
one thing is that it's ironic that we so carelessly share so much of information openly in
yeah,
digital world
yes.
and then get paranoid about something of this sort. I'm not saying I'm not for it or against it, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the more important part is to be more cautious and be uh, more assertive in the manner in which you share content. But I think what they can't get from AI world is the context.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to watch a movie or listen to someone talk about war versus experiencing it yourself. It's an entirely different experience, right? Suddenly, all your senses are active and they are all interpreting and understanding it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you are just listening and hearing. Just as I said earlier, only two senses are engaged, rest three are not engaged.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of impression, and that impression is engraved in our brain. So that changes a lot the way we behave.
Mm-hmm.
So that so so building that repository of context becomes very important for somebody who is entering the workforce or somebody who is in the school or college at this point of time. And for them, it's slightly more easier because a lot of people are now ready to help them with that. Like I never thought of internship when I was in college. It was not even a concept. I never thought of part-time jobs or part-time projects at point of time. So I was in a conference yesterday, and one boy from Christ University came and said, "I want to work with startup. I'm okay to work without any payment, but I want exposure." I would have never done that 20 years ago.
Yeah, true.
I would not even thought about it.
Right.
So I think it's context building is not just limited to work. I think the way I see it is that how do you position yourself as a multi-dimensional person?
Hmm.
And there is no limit to that definition of end there.
Yeah,
Not three, it's not five. It can be as many as you decide to be.
true, true.
So
So,
if I can give an analogy, it's like the way cricket has evolved.
hmm,
At some point of time, you are either a batter or a keeper or a bowler.
yeah.
Then it's just keep the test aside. Then
Hmm.
suddenly became you need to be a keeper, but you should also know how to bat.
Yeah, yeah,
So somebody like Dhoni came in, and somebody who could be a slightly better wicket keeper got pushed down the order because they don't contribute so much as that.
yeah,
Then the question about can India produce all-rounders, because our position of 6 and 7 became a question.
yeah.
Then the IPL happened. After a couple of seasons, the question was that if you're not able to hit as fast, at least 100, I think they started with 100 strike rate. So if you're
Hmm.
not scoring at say 150 strike rate, then you're probably not in the top in the team level.
Yes.
Now that number has gone up to 180.
Hmm.
Now the question being asked is that can you hit if you are at four down or at, somebody in the sixth or seventh position, can
Hmm.
you hit a four in the first two balls that
Yeah,
you're going to face? Because that is the context hasn't changed. You are still playing the same cricket, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the question is that how, as an individual growing up now, create that dimension. It's not only about learning how to code or learning how to build stuff, but it's also about learning how to appreciate different cultures. Because you are no
Yeah.
longer going to work with only your people around you. You're going to work with somebody from Northeast, you're going to work with somebody from South, you're going to work with somebody from the West. Somebody might be, your another colleague might be somebody from Bhutan, somebody from South Africa, you never know. The
Yeah,
question is,
yeah.
how do you build that first a mindset to appreciate and
Hmm.
understand them for how they're coming up when they're saying something, and then maximize as a team.
Yeah, yeah.
So that becomes important. So that is not going to come if you're only learning programming, one programming language after other.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then if you have to be a good programmer, people say that English is the next biggest programming language. Now the fact is that you need to know what to say.
Hmm.
I cannot say that, okay, build me a mobile app which will convert, say, Kannada to English or help me learn Kannada.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to be able to give a bit more deeper context than that. Now, question is, as a consumer, what is differentiating your app from Duolingo, which is already a market leader, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to bring that differentiation, you should probably be a Kannada speaker yourself. You should know what different parts of Karnataka, how they speak the language, and what are the nuances of the language. Then create a common ground, which could possibly acceptable for a native Kannadiga as you should have a deeper understanding of how people learn on the other side,
Yeah.
right? Maybe somebody who's if a targeted audience. So you may just give a statement like create a mobile app to help me learn Kannada.
Hmm.
You are
Hmm.
not. So in your mind, you are thinking somebody like your age is going to use that app. But
Yeah.
what if in reality somebody like two generations elder to you are going to learn? Then the maybe the font needs to be bigger. It needs to be bigger pictures, right? So that context will come only where in which you are been in the field and have done that.
Wow. So many things that you've highlighted, context, constant learning. It's also like you said, deep research is required when you want to build something. So in a way, Adarsh, AI literacy has become as important as basic literacy. So what is that one skill each and every Indian, I'm not just talking about a student here, but each and every Indian needs to learn about AI? Like this one skill, important skill,
Communication.
communication. Very interesting. There's this one thing that each and every guest has actually focused on in all my episodes,
Okay.
that communication is, yeah, highly required. Please go
Because
ahead.
when I started doing the AI or learning how to build tools using AI
Mm-hmm.
versus where I'm doing right now, I can do things much more faster. Some of the prompting techniques that I use 18 months, I no longer use them because AI has become smarter.
Mm-hmm.
With the MCP's model context protocols coming in, it has even made it even much more easier to build AI tools
Yeah.
and build more complex tools, not even simple tools.
Mm-hmm.
Complex tools which can actually make real revenue bottom line impact. Now, question is that after 5 years, not 5 years, 5 months, what's the next thing? So I think the ability for the user to articulate, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because AI is smart only to the as a function of how good your prompt is.
Mm.
If you are giving your ambition, it will gonna give you your ambition out.
Yeah.
So communication becomes very important. And how do you uh, uh, sharpen that communication? By building the context. How do
Mm.
you build context? By experiencing the context yourself in the real world out.
Yeah. So, like, real world experience is equally important, right? Okay. So Adarsh, you worked at the intersection of, because you have a background of anthropology and we also mixed it with tech. So I also wanted to understand, what role does empathy, cultural understanding, or ethics play in the future of work?
Well, in the future of work, if you are trying to make money, then very
Hmm.
little. But if
Very little.
if you're in the future of work, you are trying to make a real impact, real change on ground a lot.
Yes. Those who want to do a work for purpose, if there's a
Uh,
purpose
no,
in
I
it.
think that is a minority. So I will still address the other half, other parties.
Yeah.
One is that
And we'll
we
not
use,
ignore the minority, huh? We'll
yeah,
also talk about
yes.
them.
So
Okay.
we use apps for most majority of things, right? And a simple thing as allowing the app to read your OTP when that comes.
Mm-hmm.
The long it's you as a product owner, you would have probably added that feature to make that transaction faster because you know that shorter that time to fill that OTP,
Mm-hmm.
chances of that payment being done increases,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I got the OTP and somebody came to me and asked something. I got distracted. I'm not making the payment now. So that's a loss of revenue for that
Mm-hmm.
particular instance. The moment it is automated reading, that means I am guaranteeing that revenue for that particular app for that transaction, right? So it's advantages for the company in that way. While they can say that they're making it easy for the consumer, which is 90% true, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody looks at the long-term implications of it. Is
Mm-hmm.
that as a somebody who is using such apps regularly, I'm actually losing my ability or my control over my short-term memory. I'm
Yeah.
not, and brain is not going to retain very good short-term memory in something else and a very poor short-term memory in something else. That's not how brain works.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is context situation A or situation B, brain capability is the same thing. There is
Yeah.
no change in that. So while I may be prioritizing convenience by allowing the OTP to be read automatically, I'm
Mm.
actually putting myself at risk of losing my short-term memory, say the next 5, 10, 15 years. Now, as a
Heard of it. Okay. Huh.
now, as a product company or as a company who's developing the app, am I looking at the long-term well-being of my consumer, or am I looking at maximizing my revenue opportunity with the customer consumer?
Wow. Wow.
So that's where the majority comes in, and then second comes to the minority or the people who are trying to do with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an answer to them. I'm sure if they have, or know what they have a purpose for themselves, I'm pretty sure they would have reasonably figured out what they want to do.
Okay.
It's very difficult to say no to something which you are so accustomed to do right now because we are choosing convenience for everything in life,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we are living in the moment in a way. We are living for the moment, but not for the next moment. That's what I say.
True, true. Are we not going to address the ethical aspect of AI? No, there's no point.
No, it's not about, I mean, I'm sure it needs to be answered at some point of time, but I don't know whether now is the right time for it. If you look at the way the ethical aspects of AI has been shaping up, uh,
Mm-hmm.
EU was the first one to come up with a guideline on how AI can be used, and they came, and typically European acts are the most stringent. Then US came out with something after that on how AI could be used and what are the guidelines for it. But interesting things to happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks is that both EU and US to some extent have put this on hold, especially to ensure that innovation should not be startled.
Mm.
And if you're looking at ethics, innovation is going to happen only slowly.
Mm. True, true.
So if you look
I
at
agree.
it, we talked about, I mean, a lot of people were crying over OpenAI using their data for training their models, right? I mean, there are cases, it's a ongoing case.
Yeah,
And do you really expect them to be punished for it? Answer is no.
yeah.
So it's a question of convenience for most party. I think it's like the green, what do you call that? The
Deforestation.
carbon emission that we talk about every year, right? For majority of the countries for a long time produce carbon, and
Mm-hmm.
when they reached a state where in which their societal life is at a comfortable level, they are asking the entire world to
Yeah.
to keep a track of it and limit their emission.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that fair? Answer is no.
True.
Uh, I
Yeah.
mean, it is correct thing to do, but it's the right thing to do from an individual country perspective. Answer is no. So I think so. While we can talk about it, I don't really see it being practiced or enforced to that extent. Maybe after whoever feels that they're in a comfortable position to that, okay, now they can ask, they can put in those regulations to slow down innovation and development in other parts. Probably then it will happen.
Yeah. True. True. Um, Whenever it comes to AI, Adarsh, and whatever job postings that I've seen on LinkedIn or other job portals, I've always seen that they require someone with a technical background.
Yeah.
What sort of future do we see for people who come from a non-technical background?
No, it is promising. It is promising because the technology is catching up a lot fast. So,
Mm.
as I said, the what helps somebody from a tech background is that they have done the entire software lifecycle management or development process.
Hmm.
So, a product doesn't go live to market moment the code is done.
Okay.
There's a process where in which you will test the product, where you'll do a quality audit. Then
Mhm.
there's a You may even in the development process, you may have to connect that to 4 hour different systems. So you
Hmm.
need to understand the nuances. So that is maybe you may struggle for like one project, two second project, but the third project it becomes as easy as possible.
Okay, that's for a person from a technical background. But
I'm talking about non-technical.
non-technical, they can also do coding, like someone who comes from a background of maybe degree in arts or
They
uh,
can. So
they can.
what? See, a non-technical person can also talk to ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using and say, build me a app for this.
Okay.
It will build an
Okay.
app. It's just you
Okay.
are communicating, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
the question is, what are the nuances involved to take it to production or make it live for actual people to use it?
Okay. Yeah.
That probably, as a non-technical person, you'll probably do one project, struggle, second project, struggle, third project, you'll pick it up. It's not a
Okay.
rocket science. It's just that over a period of time, uh, there is a certain, it's like a grammar in any language.
Okay.
Can you speak the language without knowing the grammar? Answer is yes.
Okay. So
Knowing
AI
the language,
makes it much more easier for them.
no,
No?
point is in the process of writing code
Mhm.
to converting that into a software which can be used by user. There's a journey to that.
Yes. Hmm.
You need to know that journey process. As a technical person, you will know that journey process.
Hmm. Hmm.
As
Hmm.
a non-technical person, you may not know. But after doing couple of projects, you will pick it up because it's not rocket science.
Right.
The
Would you
only
like to
thing,
talk about, sorry, please go
so
ahead.
only thing that a non-technical person should keep in mind is that they should not feel disheartened after the first failure and stop.
Yeah, true.
Yes, it'll come after 1 month, 2 months. It's not a rocket science.
Okay. Would you like to talk about some of the existing AI careers for people who come from a non-technical background?
So that is actually quite difficult to classify, largely because uh, unless you are building the hardcore AI production tools, you don't really need technical skill for anything.
Hmm.
Anybody can do it as long as you are able to communicate correctly with the prompt.
Okay, okay. So Adarsh, AI is creating certain jobs and is also like replacing certain jobs. How does one prepare themselves for a career that has not been there yet? A job that doesn't exist. How do they prepare themselves for that?
So
Happening too soon.
no, that is all right because we had this question 15 years ago when internet came, or
Hmm.
30, 40 years ago when computers came, right? Only
Yeah.
difference is that we had time to react. Right now, our time is limited
Yes.
to react.
Yes.
Question is that
Yes.
how do you do that?
Yeah.
So I think the in my from the way I see things are keep it at the fundamental level.
Hmm. Okay.
So I think that allows us to keeping when I'm saying fundamental level, make sure that you have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind, you are eating right, you're exercising correctly,
Mm-hmm.
you have the basic science skills, you have the basic creative skills. Whatever you are choosing for your life, know it well. Because
Right.
all of you don't know what's going to happen after 5, 10 years, right? What are you then going to prepare for? You can prepare for then what you believe you are good at right now. Because things will pan out uh, eventually. So just make sure that you are using that time to invest in yourself to develop not only as a good programmer, but on the overall human being.
Okay. And what are like the top three things Indian students should invest in time or skill wise before entering the workforce in the next maybe 5 to 10 years?
Okay. I would say that if you are 13, you should be start earning money.
13, you should start
Yeah, it could be as simple as selling lemon juice on a summer day. I think
wow.
very
Okay.
important to understand the value of money, value of more importantly to understand the value of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that creates discipline and discipline in the individual, and that needs to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And second thing, create as many experience and memories for you when you are young, because then you have a safety net when you are going to screw up things. You will do it, but then you have a safety net, your parents, your school, your family, your teachers and friends to help you with it. Because as you grow older, you're only going to get loner. You do not have that safety net. So do as many mistakes that you can when you do it. So you do experience the world, experience, discover yourself. What is that you like to do, what you don't like to do. A lot of people in our country today figure that what they want to do when they're after they're retiring, which is unfortunate very much because you get to do what you want to do only for say 5, 10, 15 years. You
Yeah.
lose that
Yeah.
40 years that you could have otherwise spent on it, right? So do those correct, all those experimentation, experiences, learning as early as possible.
Yeah. Do as much mistakes as you
Yeah,
can and learn from those
yeah.
mistakes, right? Yeah.
Even more
Okay.
importantly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And also, Adarsh, a student who would be watching this podcast, and like I spoke about, this generation is a bit anxious, and when they get nervous, or like my sample size, or the students that I have come across, they are highly anxious, and if they feel nervous or overwhelmed that the future is going to change and AI is going to rule and dominate, and someone is overwhelmed, what advice would you have for those students?
It's okay to feel that way.
It's
It's
okay.
only establishing the fact that we are human and it matters to us.
Right. Yes. There are a lot of AI tools available right now, Adarsh, right? How does a student avoid misusing those tools and actually use those tools to enhance like creativity? How do we stop misusing of those AI
Yeah, it's
tools,
very so
right?
right at this point of time we don't have any formal regulation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
So a knife can be used to cut butter. It can also be used to kill a person, right? So
Yeah.
it's a question of how, as an individual, you are using it. So it's very difficult to uh, uh, say that. But what I would suggest is that if, as a educational, from a context of education, if you are in
Mm-hmm.
college or if in school, as a institution, if they can come up with a policy and guideline on how AI can be used effectively for learning. I think that could be a good guiding document for students because then they have a reference point as to like what are the guardrails. Because most of the times we use something without really thinking it through,
Yeah.
especially at that age. So a document or some sessions from the institutions can be of real help there. Like for example, I'm currently doing a study of among university students to understand how they're using AI for learning. And one of the question that I have is that towards the end is like, has the institution provided you with a guideline on how to use it? And majority of them have responded no or unaware. So so therefore, as an institution, whether you are in school or in college, help them with that basic document on how to go about using it in the most optimal manner, and so that their short-term needs as well as the long-term impacts are actually curtailed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that there'll be only one or two who will misuse it. Most people will actually like it that, okay, somebody is helping them understand and create a guardrail on how they're using it. So I'm pretty sure they will do it responsibly.
Okay. Okay, Adarsh. I think I've asked you all the questions that I had. I'll just take a quick look so
Okay.
that I haven't missed any, but I think I have. Um, yes, you also spoke about the mindset shift. Yes. Okay, so you've answered all of the questions, Adarsh, and thank you so much. It was extremely insightful, and I remain always happy and curious about the AI world. So thank you so much for answering those questions. Now, this brings us to the most interesting segment, which is the rapid fire round.
Okay.
You know what a rapid fire round is?
Yes, I don't get to think. But can I ask ChatGPT?
Sorry?
Can I ask ChatGPT?
Please, that would be like something really interesting. Do you want to do it?
No, not really.
No, I'll do it later on.
Okay.
I'll ask that question to ChatGPT and then parallelly I'll have your video. That can be something interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you for the idea, Adarsh. Okay, so here comes the rapid fire round. I ask you these volley of questions and whatever first comes to your mind, you need to respond with
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Yeah? Okay. One book that changed your perspective on technology?
1984, George Orwell.
Okay. How?
So when I read the book, AI was still not being talked about, but I could imagine so personally, I don't like being controlled. I don't like being told what to do. And the Orwellian world is all about taking away the ability of an individual to think for himself or herself.
True,
All
true.
right. And with AI, I think that is what's happening and what's increasingly likely to happen. So that is one book I encourage people to read.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What's one AI tool you personally use often?
ChatGPT.
Okay. More dangerous, misinformation or automation?
Misinformation through automation.
Okay. One myth about AI you wished people would stop believing.
Related to?
Uh, I don't know. There's one. Is there any myth about AI?
Okay, about AI.
Yeah.
AI is not biased.
Okay. Really?
It is biased.
It is biased, right? Okay. What's your go-to advice to young professionals confused about AI careers?
It's a choice. You can choose to supplement yourself with AI,
Mhm.
or you can watch AI take over your work. So it's a choice you ultimately make.
India's biggest advantage in the global AI race?
Population, market.
A career that doesn't exist today, but will be common by 2030.
Detoxing coach.
Detoxing coach.
How do
Wow.
you detox? Something like a AI digital detoxing coach.
Yeah, yeah, okay. The biggest misconception Indian parents have about AI jobs.
About AI jobs.
AI jobs. Like, for example, Indian parents also have a lot of misconception about social media jobs. Like, they still don't count influencer marketing or
Okay.
content creators as like real jobs. So, do you think they have like similar misconception about AI jobs?
If money is coming in, will they be worried?
That I don't know. I think they'll still be worried. They'll be worried that you don't have a government job.
Yeah, yeah, probably. No, I think definition of success and path to success changes with time and place. And I
Maybe
think,
when we'll become parents and
yeah, I think everybody needs to be cognizant of that. Worked in 80s will not work anymore.
yeah. Design thinking or policy thinking, which one wins long term?
One without other is futile.
Yeah, yeah. One thing Indian colleges must drop immediately from their curriculum.
Colleges,
Sorry,
Indian colleges or schools,
colleges. Yes, colleges.
but there are
Like one thing which is redundant, they need to just drop it.
examinations based on rote learning.
Yes, true, true. Okay, Adarsh, that brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you so much for all those tips, advices, and insightful thoughts.
I
And
really appreciate having you here, having me with you. So, really appreciate it. Thank you.
yes, I'll also look forward to another episode with much more interesting questions and conversations because the AI world is evolving on a daily basis. But for today, thank you so much for all those insightful thoughts that you have shared on this episode. And to all my viewers, thank you so much. And this is your host, Anvesha, signing off from TEDucate, where we decode careers, education, and everything in between. Thank you so much, Adarsh.